With Eva racing back to base to avoid raising suspicion with Volgan, Snake is left to pursue Sokolov alone. Eva hasn't entirely abandoned him, however. She has directed Snake to an alternate path that should lead him to his target. It is a very long path with many obstacles. First, Snake must sneak through Bolshaya base, careful to avoid detection from the guards and their dogs. Then, he must find a crevice, which leads to a cave, which leads to a warehouse, which should finally lead to Sokolov. Bolshaya base poses little challenge, but once Snake reaches the crevice, he is interrupted once again by Ocelot.
You're here at last. Looks like the boss's info was right.
The two engage in yet another rematch. This time, Ocelot has changed strategy once again. Now he is armed with not one, but two revolvers. That is, revolvers without engravings, it should be noted.
I hate to disappoint the Cobras, but you're mine now.
Ocelot is all business now, though he hasn't forgotten how to have fun. His gun twirling is on full display here, and he's also discovered the thrill of reloading in battle. Before the duel can reach a conclusion, they are interrupted by the sudden arrival of angry hornets. Or should that be bees? Or is it wasps?
Damn it! He found us!
Ocelot somehow uses his gun twirling as a surprisingly effective defense strategy against the insects. While the rest of the Ocelot unit scrambles to get away, not before losing one of their own, however, Snake plunges into the crevice, seeing it as the only means of escaping from the swarm. He lands unharmed on the soft, muddy earth, but finds himself in a cave so dark he can barely see. This is the Cholnaya Peshera cave branch. After groping around in the dark, through seemingly endless passages, Snake is eventually led back to the light, as he enters a singular section of the cave, a beautiful space where the sunlight enters from above, illuminating the pool of water below. This is where the pain has been lying in wait for Snake.
I found you at last. I am the pain.
Thus commences the first boss battle of the game. Ask the Metal Girl. You are listening to Metal Girl Solid, one woman's journey through a series she knows nothing about. I am the Metal Girl, Courtney Colson. I even have metal pins in my ankle. I am very committed to the bit. This block begins at 2 hours 13 minutes and ends at 2 hours 43 minutes with our first boss battle with the Pain. It's around this time that you can call Eva and discuss Ocelot and his background. And this is the only place it's explicitly mentioned, as far as I know. I haven't played the other games, of course. But, well, I'll just put in a clip of what Eva says here.
Eva, I wanted to ask you about Ocelot.
Yeah, I know. He's pretty infatuated with you, isn't he?
That's not what I meant. Aren't the Ocelots an elite unit?
Yeah.
So how'd he get to be their commander? He can't be any older than 18 or 19. I can't believe he's already a major.
I heard from the colonel that he's been given special treatment.
Special treatment?
Yeah, he's the son of some legendary hero or something.
No wonder he seems to have the right stuff. So who is this legendary hero anyway?
Beats me. The colonel never told me. All I heard was that his mother was supposedly shot in the gut during battle, and that he was born right there with bullets whizzing past them.
A pregnant woman in the middle of a battle?
That's what I heard. They say that when they stitched her up, the scar was shaped like a snake.
Well, that's battlefield medicine for you. What about his father, this legendary hero?
He didn't tell me. I don't think Ocelot's ever met his parents.
Are they dead?
Maybe, I don't know. There were a lot of MIAs back then, during the last days of the war. Ocelot probably would have ended up the same way. But he was taken in and raised by Gru and Volgan.
Because he was special.
That's my guess.
And by the time you get to the end of the game, the boss explicitly says that she gave birth to a beautiful baby boy and somehow ended with a snake-shaped scar. That's okay. alright, it's a game, it's not real life. So very realistic. And so it makes sense. Ocelot looks a lot like his mother. They kind of have the same face. This is where it's explicitly said that Ocelot is born and raised Russian, and he was raised by Volgan. My gosh, he's surprisingly well adjusted, all things considered. Where Snake had the boss as a mentor, Ocelot had Volgan. But that also explains why Volgan has that relationship with Ocelot. So we know Volgan's taste for pretty young Aryan boys, but he doesn't treat Ocelot that way. And so I guess it's because he basically raised this kid. So Ocelot, being that he came from good breeding stock, but also he was raised from birth to be a soldier. This is basically all he knows. In a way, he is this perfect Russian counterpart to the American Snake, both raised in combat, in warfare. This is all they know. They're career soldiers. This is the whole world, and they are basically the perfect balance for one another. I can see why the Bosselot ship is so popular, the Big Boss Ocelot pairing in the fandom. Female fans of... Actually, just the female fandom in general, not just Metal Gear, but just... You have this group of what they call the Fujoshis in Japanese, the Russian girls. These girls who just really want to make all the men in any story just kiss each other. I don't know. So yes, there are some female fans who are very into writing some very dirty erotica between Big Boss and Ocelot, or Big Boss and Kazuhira, or any of that. But no, I do see why they're so drawn to the dynamic between Snake and Ocelot, because these are two characters who are the perfect counterparts to each other, the Western and Eastern equivalent of the same idea. They are both exceptional in their fields. They probably don't have too many people who impress them, who challenge them, who can compete with them. That's a lonely place to be. But to find someone who is their equal, that's exciting, that's thrilling, it's rare. And so I can see why fans might interpret that as a romantic infatuation. But yeah, this adoration Ocelot has for Big Boss, it's undeniable. Big Boss's number one fanboy. I have mentioned that I've been looking at the audio commentary by Hideo Kojima for Snake Eater, and that's obviously entirely in Japanese. I don't know if in the Legacy Collection, if you can access that. I guess if I changed the Japanese language, maybe that would show the audio commentary. I don't know how to access it, but it has been floating around on the internet for a long time, and the Metal Gear Wiki refers to it quite often. And the only place you can read this script, the commentary script, translated into English, is on a website called 1010 Pro, and that's what I've been looking at, 1010pro.com. So there's Muni Shinobi, I don't know if that's a person, and then there's a little Metal Gear section, and then it's this Web 1.0 looking website. Looks like it comes from the early 2000s, although it was last updated around the time of the Phantom Pain. This is the only place we can really verify a lot of information and the making of this game. But the strange thing is, this 1010 Pro, it appears to be, if you go on the main page, it appears to be a film production studio and has more modern graphic design. And I can't see a full site map, so I don't really know how many things are linked to 1010 Pro. It's a photography and videography service, and I don't know if... Well, the business is called 1010, so that if we've got that established, that has to have been there first, and then whoever owns this decided to do this whole Metal Gear fan page and just make it look totally different from anything else on the site and make it look all Web 1.0. Okay. But I mention all this just because it's an interesting little mystery, but also this is the only source we have for an English translation of what Kojima actually said in that commentary. So not a hell of a lot happens in this block, which honestly, It's nice. It's nice to just sort of have a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather, because I think these first 4 episodes were so front heavy. There's so much information that we need to get through. Now we can just kind of slow down and breathe and take in the smaller details. For example, Snake jumps into a crevice. And then I was wondering, what's the difference between a crevasse and a crevice? So I'll read from the World Atlas here if you're curious. This podcast is edutainment, guys. A crevasse occurs in wet places, mainly covered with snow, and is therefore not easily visible, but a crevice will occur on dry land and can be easily identified. Thus, a crevasse is very dangerous to a human being or to animals such as the polar bears, which can fall into it and die due to hypothermia. Did you know that polar bears can get hypothermia? I did not. I don't know how that works. We don't have time. Keep going. A crevice is less dangerous. Some reptiles and bats even live in it. They form a safe habitat for breeding, especially for nocturnal animals. Lost mountaineers don't breed in there, but they could. Lost mountaineers can also seek refuge in a crevice. And it's in this block that we first hear Robin Atkin Downes voicing just one of the NPCs, the guards, one of the soldiers saying, just my imagination. I don't know, it's kind of nice to know, he was kind of around in the earlier games. When Ocelot says, damn it, he's found us, well, that implies the Cobra unit isn't actually cooperating with Volgan's people, or is Ocelot not supposed to be here right now? Is he acting of his own accord? But no, the boss told Ocelot where Snake was. She wanted him here, but then is she working for her own agenda there? So maybe... that's very confusing. There's so many different... And that's why I keep coming back to this game, and there's so much to discuss. But yeah, there's so many different parties there working for their own agendas. So you got the boss, you got Snake, you got Volgan, you got Ocelot, and then there's a Cobra unit, and everyone's kind of doing their own thing. And they're sometimes collaborating, but not always, and it's not guaranteed. Why would the Pain attack the Ocelot unit? Is that simply to have the honor of killing Snake himself? Maybe? I mean, Ocelot seems to just be here... Well, okay, because he is actually working on Snake's side. I mean, the rematch is maybe just a distraction, or he really does want to best Snake. So I don't know his motivations there. If he doesn't want to kill Snake, okay, we know that. We can say for certain that Ocelot does not want to kill Snake. He is here for a rematch. Alright. Yep. And then bees show up and the Pain wants to defeat the Ocelot unit and Snake at the... so he's against both of them. So the Cobras are working against Gru as well. Is it just because it's cinematic and it seemed like the action called for it? I don't know. Or did it just seem like, okay, well, we're going to have an Ocelot scene here, but then we're going to quickly distract from it and change it back to the main focus, which is fighting the Cobra unit. I'm not really sure what the logic is there. You know, if I'm writing this story, why would I do that? And I got no theories, guys, so I'm just going to leave that to you. Here's the evidence. The only other alternative I can think of is, once again, it's all for show. So maybe the boss, the Cobra unit, Eva, Ocelot, they're all working together to create this simulacrum for, well, not only Snake, but the United States and the world theater in general. It's all a play. It is all pretend until someone gets killed. I know some people don't like the cave sequence. They find it frustrating to play, but I found it so beautiful and meditative. I really like those moments in games that are quiet and contemplative and meditative. You know, I like all the action and the combat as well, but to have that contrast, and I think Kojima is one of those directors who really understands the importance of that. So you can't just keep it up at, 11 the whole time, really intense combat. You do need those moments where you can just sort of relax a little bit. Death Stranding, a lot of people would argue it's the opposite of that. It flips the balance, where a lot of it is slow and contemplative, and then you'll have your little intense moments here and there. The walking simulator. But no, I love Death Stranding, and that was my first Kojima game, And I feel like this moment in the caves, but also the ladder sequence as well, these are moments of quiet contemplation. And I think they are very important in games. I mean, every player has a different thing that they're looking for in a game. And yeah, if you just want to be running and gunning the whole time, then there are a lot of online multiplayer games that you can do that sort of stuff. If it's just mindless combat that you're looking for, yeah. But I love that Kojima balances the combat with the contemplation. Lately, I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077, finally getting on top of that when CD Projekt Red's kind of gotten all the kinks out. And it's a fantastic game. I am really enjoying it. But my favorite moment was just when I'm sitting on a rooftop talking to a character that I'm working alongside. It's a Japanese man. He's telling you about Neko, something Neko. It's a cat, a mythical cat creature. We're sitting on this balcony and we're looking at a hairless cat. Domestic cats have disappeared from cities. He's telling me about this and his childhood, and my character is telling him about my childhood, and we're watching the sun set and there's a little bit of rain coming down and we're looking at the city. And I was so happy to just, you can skip through the conversation if you want to. Never would. I was so at peace. I was just having a wonderful moment there with this character, and it felt so real. It felt so human and quiet. You know, I think media, of course, you know, it is this, well, I think the world in general, this modern world, is this hyper-normal stimulus. And in Cyberpunk, they talk about, you know, they get outside of the city and they go, wow, I forgot what silence sounds like, true, actual silence. And yeah, that is a real problem in our modern day, that it's not just, you know, when we watch television or listen to music and, you know, there's a lot of noise there. No, there's just constant traffic noise and just constant sound around you that we didn't have in nature. And so if within a video game, you can have those moments that actually resemble life, that it's a bit meandering, that it's not getting directly to the point. So movies, cinema is generally very direct, very to the point. It's point A to point B, it has to flow in a certain way. But books and video games have this luxury of being able to slowly meander. So if you want to wander around this cave and fight all these little crabs and eat them, you're welcome to do that. And I personally think, you know, okay, Death Stranding got a lot of criticism for this, but no, I stand by it. I think that contemplation and sort of matching the pace of real life, there's a strange appeal to it. Hopefully I've articulated it as best I can, but yeah, I need those moments, those breathing moments, those moments just to exist in the space. And that's what kind of frustrates me with movies sometimes. When I really love a movie and I really love a certain set, or just the look of an environment and the costumes, and all, I just want to sit back and take it in. My favorite movie of all time is The Fall. Tarsem Singh's The Fall. It's from 2006. Absolutely breathtaking. I wish I could just, like in a video game, wander around and take in all the little details, and it just exists in that space. I guess to get back to my point, I love that Kojima seems to understand that. To immerse yourself in the moment and to be with this character. It's not about just running and gunning and being in that high intensity, heart racing mode, and that is very important as well to connect with the game and bond with the character. Yes, but you need that quiet, and that's why I love this cave area. And you know, much like this episode here, we can kind of slow down a little bit. It's nice, right? We're having a good time here, guys, aren't we? So the Pain is voiced by Greg Berger. And I recognize his voice as Agent K from the underrated and sadly mostly forgotten Men in Black animated series from the 90s, as well as Grimlock from Transformers, me Grimlock, and Garfield Odie, you know, the little dog. And sometimes he's Eeyore when Optimus Prime isn't voicing him. And I think Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen, has voiced Grimlock sometimes, so I guess, yeah, Greg Berger and Peter Cullen kind of swap roles sometimes. But getting back on track, the Pain's funky little dance moves. When I first played this, I did not understand why he was doing this. This was very strange. Maybe you ever noticed, but it's apparently to instruct the bees. He's such a weirdo. But you know what? It's only a step up in weirdness in terms of Volgan and Ocelot so far. So it's like I'm slowly being acclimated to the weirdness of Snake Eater. It doesn't throw you right into the deep end. Once the pain is defeated, we see his horribly disfigured face, possibly due to wasp bee stings. And the injuries do look consistent with the Ocelot unit when one of those soldiers was killed. And that was pretty brutal, given the limitations of the graphics. But because of the limitations, it kind of just looks like reptile skin, like reptilian kind of Killer Croc face, yeah. So that is something I'll be curious to see in Delta when that comes out, finally, eventually. Now, I have some criticisms for the Cobra unit fights. Some of them are spectacular. I liked... Well, everyone loves the end. The end and the sorrow are incredible. They're some of the best boss fights in any game ever, of all time. It's been 20 years and it's still, those are incredible. But the pain and the fear, they're very throwaway. No one is a big fan of either one of them. They are quite comical. They aren't really living up to the name that they live by. So I was thinking, well, if I were the director here, what would I do to make the pain just as impressive as any of the other bosses in this game? We don't get much backstory for any of the Cobras, although the novelization will, in a fair amount of detail. So why does the pain use bees? It's a very goofy concept. But if pain is the emotion he brings into battle, why wasps? Maybe... you can go into this far-out Hellraiser direction instead. And if we're talking about pain in warfare, that's the other thing too, is so what, he was already embodying the pain before he went into combat, and he just had this weird fetish for bees, what the hell? Or if it was something he discovered in combat, maybe it was through torturing prisoners of war, or maybe it was him overcoming his own injuries. Maybe he's missing limbs, he'd be really fucked up like that, that more Hellraiser perspective. Pain is a fantastic concept to play with. There's a lot you can really do. And again, Hellraiser is maybe one of the best examples of this fine line between pleasure and pain, this relationship human beings, or any living creature has of we self-inflict pain. And humans particularly, it's very strange. And we have all these rituals of, well, even to this day, your tattoos and your piercings. And also there's the whole S&M thing. But there is also, in basically every culture around the world, that boys particularly go through this painful rite of passage to prove his manhood. And, this even genital mutilation of children has been noted in many cultures and all of that. Why do we do this? We have a really weird cultural relationship with pain. We're not like any other animal. Some animals, after mating, they will eat their mate, or they'll eat their children, inflicting pain and death upon family, essentially. Nature's fucked up, and humans are no different. So you could really go down some amazing and fascinating and terrifying pathways with pain. What we get in Snake Eater is... It's light, it's campy, it's goofy, and maybe that's what Kojima was going for. So, I'm not trying to, I could do it better, and I'm not going to have the arrogance of I can rewrite this and make it better, but to me, what would have satisfied me? Because I do not find this fight satisfying at all. And you're thinking, but it's your first boss in this game, so you kind of have to slowly warm your way into it. No. I've got a great example of another character where you're dealing with pain, and it's a much more compelling fight. And I'm referring to Boulder in God of War. This is a character, you beat the ever-loving shit out of him, and he just gets back up. You use all the brute force you are capable of, and you are Kratos. That is basically all you do. In God of War, you basically continue, and then you wear him down and it ends. But I'm thinking, what if the pain was like that? You just beat the ever-loving shit out of him, and maybe you're both unarmed, and it's just this brutal one-on-one fight, but he seems to like it. And so you're forced to consider a way of defeating him that doesn't inflict pain. Which makes perfect sense given you already have the stamina defeat feature. You know, that's an option. You can defeat the character through stamina depletion, so why not do that with a character who is about pain? And perhaps every time you actually inflict physical pain on him, he's getting pleasure, he is replenishing his health, and maybe you are somehow becoming euphoric when you are hurt by the pain. So you have to be really careful. So you are almost being entranced and hypnotized by the pain. The more pain he inflicts on you, you're almost getting drunk on it, and you're enjoying it, and you want it. And I don't know how you would work that out in the game mechanics, but I'm thinking it could be possible. Or it can kind of trick you and make you think that you're actually winning and you're being rewarded for it, to realize, oh, hang on, fuck, no, I'm going to die if I keep this up. So I would love it if the pain, the boss battle here, forced you to try to defeat an enemy without inflicting pain. And given that this is probably the first time you're learning that you can do a stamina defeat instead of a health, HP defeat, it would have been the perfect solution. It would have been fantastic. It would have so easily shown you, okay, this is how it works, that you don't always have to defeat through violence, which is, like our fundamental message of Metal Gear, right? This is how you do it through stamina, and then actually using pain might work against you. I mean, guys, I'm onto something, right? I'm not just talking out my ass, yeah? I would have loved that. I wish I could have that version of the pain. And then, okay, well, I mean, bringing in the whole bee wasp aspect is, it's just such an extra step to go, but maybe, the bees, when they bite you or sting you, you are kind of becoming intoxicated. So there's something about this bee venom in particular that is analgesic or euphoric, or okay, yeah, so you can still work with the bee motif. Maybe, I don't know, could you do that where you think your health bar isn't actually lowering, so it starts lying to you, where you think you feel great but you don't, so you keep going and going, hang on, but my health is still at 100%, or play with your players' brains a little bit. And then, of course, the pain collapses and explodes because all the Cobras have bombs inside of them. Does this make Paz the 7th Cobra? Is that? The boss doesn't have an explosive, and I guess the Sorrow didn't. When did they put these bombs in? Was that for this mission specifically? I don't know. And I will read the wiki entry on the Cobra unit. Their characterization and rivalry with Snake was a reference to the anime series Tiger Mask, and their codenames referring to emotions done in battle. Was compared by Kojima to Colonel Kurtz's final words in Apocalypse Now. That was Marlon Brando's character. Which, I was noticing that when I watched Apocalypse Now for the first time a couple of years ago. And again, that's a whole warrior poet thing going into the philosophy and spirituality of war. The Cobra unit dying via microbombs, as well as their overall role, was derived from the Kaijin characters from the Super Sentai and Kamen Rider franchises. Another theory related to the Cobra unit is that each team member symbolizes an emotion that Naked Snake himself feels and has to overcome after the boss's betrayal in the Virtuous Mission. And it doesn't neatly go into the, 7 stages of grief. The 7 stages of grief are shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and support. So obviously, the Cobra unit doesn't embody any of those, or maybe the fury, there's the anger. But, the end is maybe acceptance, so you get elements of that. It's not quite a 1-to-1 ratio, and I'm glad of that, but yes, that's where you get this Joseph Campbell mythic journey going on, that the character has to go through these stages and learning, and as I've said before, it's very mythic, it's very traditional. And I love that about this game. You don't get such a thing in in the other games I've played. I really love that mythic structure. Now, I think I have mentioned before, and if I haven't, I will here, that I fucking hate that the vocal cord parasites and the nanomachines are just used as this blanket explanation for every mystery in this game series, and I think that completely destroys the mystery and the excitement and the fun and the ambiguity of these stories. And so in The Phantom Pain, the tapes, it explicitly states, at an unknown point in time, the Pain was infected with parasites that gave him the ability to secrete hormones that gave him control over insects and gave large amounts of adrenal response to pain. I don't care. I don't like it. Chihoko Ushiyama is one of the concept artists for Metal Gear, a few of the games actually, and she had a design for the Pain that would have a ball gag in the mouth, which would be hidden under the mask, and that is such a strange, kinky feature, but I like that because that, again, ties into this whole Hellraiser thing that you think you would do with a Pain-based villain, but okay. I've never mentioned this, but the opening of the game, the Virtuous Mission, takes place on Hideo Kojima's first birthday, 24th of August 1964. He was going to place it on his actual birthday in 1963. He wanted to tie it into the Kennedy assassination, which was the 22nd of November 1963. Dedication to accuracy. Simulacra and simulation. For simulation, it would be your eyes, or Snake's eyes, adjusting to the darkness in the cave. It's just another example of immersive attention to detail in this game. And for simulacrum, it's not specific to this block, but I wanted to talk about the easy gun or trank guns in general. It's such a fundamental aspect of the Metal Gear Solid games. Without them, stealth is exceptionally difficult, if not impossible. I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077 lately, and it made me realize this. So it can be played stealthily, or you can just run and gun to hell with realism. You're just getting shot 100 times, but you're still standing, it's fine. Given the option to play stealthily, I thought, man, I have got this. I am a Metal Gear pro. If this game requires stealth, I am all over it. I was wrong. I sucked at it. Aside from the fact that Cyberpunk doesn't have a lot of the features MGSV has, and it doesn't go into military realism, and you don't have buddies, and there's no Pequod, and there's no Miller. You get the point. But the most crucial difference is a trank gun with a silencer. In order to take down enemies silently and or non-lethally in Cyberpunk, you have to get right up behind the subject and choke them out. Is this more or less realistic than what we get in Metal Gear? Well, Metal Gear Solid might be presented as more grounded in reality than Cyberpunk, but when it comes to stealth, surprisingly, and perhaps ironically, Cyberpunk is closer to reality. There are few, if any, examples of real-world military stealth, espionage, or infiltration missions that resemble anything in Metal Gear Solid. That one-man army just sneaking his way all the way into a base alone. No, it wouldn't work that way. But because of the simulacra that pervades the action genre, we are conditioned to consider them plausible. We don't bat an eye. The tranquilizer gun is something long desired in warfare, but it could never work. Quoting from the SOG book here. SOG's search for the perfect snatch weapon was a never-ending quest. Chief SOG Colonel Jack Singlab had great interest in tranquilizer darts. Like you would shoot at a tiger if you wanted to brush its teeth or something. But he found himself butting heads with Pentagon officers who voiced technical objections that masked an aversion for anything remotely connected with chemical warfare. Several SOG teams subsequently tested tranquilizer guns, but learned the same thing the veterinarians did when anesthetizing dangerous animals. By the time the dosage is sufficient to incapacitate quickly, it's enough to kill. While safe dosages act so slowly that the subject remains a threat to anyone within reach. The SOG men were compelled to gun down the NVA hit by darts, or watch helplessly as they died from the anesthesia. When tranquilizer darts failed, SOG tested another chemical incapacitator, mace, the non-lethal spray used by police. But a few recon men had been maced during stateside barroom brawls and warned it was not always effective. And then there's the matter of suppressors, and this is me talking now, it's not a quote from the book. Yes, they can dampen a considerable amount of the noise of a gun, but not all of it. The loudest sound comes from the gas exploding down the barrel of the gun to propel the bullet forward. So what the suppressor is doing is containing that gas and allowing it to dissipate rather than explode right out into the air. However, the mechanical sounds of the gun being fired, as well as the sound of the bullet, cannot be suppressed. Depending on the environment, it will still emit a fairly noticeable cracking sound, akin to a cap gun, or I've heard people say it's as loud as a firework. And it should also be mentioned that suppressor is the more modern term, and silencer is the original term, but it's been changed to more accurately reflect what it is capable of. It's not false advertising. So yes, it would be an invaluable weapon in Snake's mission, but it wouldn't exactly work as conveniently and efficiently as it does in the game. So this is a simulacrum that, well, as a lot of these simulacrums are, that we simply accept them at face value and don't really think too deeply about them, although I think suppressors and also cars exploding when you shoot them, those are the two ones that most people will point out and laugh at this point. What if Metal Gear forced you to play in an even more realistic way and you had to do what you do in Cyberpunk, where you just have to get right up behind someone and take them down that way? You cannot just from a distance take down an entire base. That's when you get into that territory of, well, where do we draw the line? How much immersion, how much realism do we want before it's destroying the enjoyment of the game? I think that's a really essential part of any game, and I've mentioned this in other episodes, is how does playing this character make you feel? And so when you're Big Boss, you want to feel like a badass, you're invincible, you are capable, and it's very satisfying to just body disappearing in the night. You are this urban legend that the soldiers whisper about, to be that powerful and efficient. The Piggyback Game Guide. At this point, we have the Ocelot bio. Ocelot is the leader of a Spetsnaz unit. Spetsnaz is a special forces, Spetsnaz literally means special forces. Spetsnaz is a special forces wing of the GRU, which is the military intelligence service directly responsible to the General Staff Bureau of the Soviet Ministry of Defense. You could say that it is a rival organization to the KGB, which is controlled by the Ministry of the Interior. And yes, I've been reading Aquarium by Viktor Suvorov, which is one of the few accounts we have from a GRU agent. And, because usually if you defect, you die. But yeah, he talks about how much animosity there is between KGB and GRU, and how KGB is just trying so hard to prove their value to the government and competing with GRU, who is said to be the superior unit. And it continues, Spetsnaz units must endure grueling, brutal training for all kinds of special missions, including espionage, sabotage, and assassination. The son of a famous war hero, Ocelot is quite the prodigy. At just 20 years of age, he's incredibly young to be the commander of an elite unit. An astonishingly gifted marksman, the only attribute he lacks is real fighting experience, but he compensates for this shortcoming with boundless self-confidence. He believes in honorable conduct during battle. This may have influenced his choice of codename, as Ocelots are said to be proud mavericks. He has developed a strange fetish for antique firearms and Russian roulette. I keep coming back to it, but his whole backstory. So, the whole NSA thing. Was that true? Was he working with the NSA? Oh, I guess because it's what do you call it? Diegetic, non-diegetic. So the accents, all these characters have American accents, even though they are in fact Russian, speaking Russian. So I have no idea what Ocelot actually sounds like when he's speaking English, or at least in this period of his life. Does he have an accent, or does he pass perfectly as an American? Obviously, when we get to MGSV, he's got very much that Southern American accent going on there. So, I don't know, is he... Well, I guess we will never know. What does he actually sound like at this stage of his life? Has he actually left Russia that much? Does he know that much about American culture? I mean, he seems to have a fascination with it because of the whole Western cowboy thing. He's a fascinating character, Ocelot. I like to think more about his backstory. Same with his mum. I spent a lot of time, honestly, just in my own free time, thinking about Ocelot and the boss and both of their backgrounds and all the things they must have gotten up to. And yeah, they're fascinating. Here is the bio for The Pain. For unbearable torment, The Pain. The Hornet soldier, known as The Pain, is a member of the Cobras, a special unit shrouded in legend which was formed by the boss during the Second World War, and drew its ranks from the best soldiers of the Allied nations. As a sign of respect for their founder, the Cobras also call themselves Sons of the Boss. The members choose their own code names in accordance with the primary emotions they feel as they go into battle. For tradition's sake, the Pain prefers a conventional weapon from the Second World War, a Thompson machine pistol, the Tommy gun, that real old school gangster kind of gun. But the primary weapon of this giant, apparently he's 6'7", is a huge swarm of hornets that he somehow controls. It is assumed he carries the queen in his backpack, using her humming to manipulate the swarm. But this is not his most unusual ability. He also has the power to breed a very special kind of hornet with his own body. The bullet bees, hang on, what he breed with his own body, bullet bees out of his body, I don't want to go there. It's just, you gotta tell yourself it's a video game, you really have to relax. Also, I'm still thinking, sorry, I'm just going back to Ocelot for a second. Does he know who his parents are? And why doesn't the boss tell him? Is it just kind of, it's too late now, and it's probably just going to upset you more than anything? I don't know. But here's some stuff on the gameplay of this block. If you shoot Ocelot's cap off, he will run to retrieve it. Which reminds me of myself in primary school. During a race, during the sports carnival, I was running and my hat came off, and I was ahead. I was going to win, but nope, turned around, grabbed my hat, and I lost. I think I was probably like 6 or 7 years old. On page 89, we get Dueling Ocelot. You can use the manual reload, pressing R2 twice, in quick succession to skip the animation and fire immediately. So I would say this could be considered an example where the player can opt out of the simulation and instead play in a way that doesn't resemble reality. It's just one of those sort of quality of life shortcuts you can put into video games. It doesn't have to be like reality all the time. If you defeat Ocelot with a stamina victory, you will be rewarded. The book tactfully doesn't reveal what it is until much later, and it does on the back page to say you will find the animal uniform here. That animal uniform is wild. I don't even, no pun intended, I don't know what the point of that one is. Do the multiple animal camouflages just sort of cancel each other out? At least to the human eye. To the human eye, a lot of animal camouflage doesn't actually work for us. So tigers and zebras, they stand out like a sore thumb to human beings because we can see the difference between green and orange, but most animals can't. I don't even know if a tiger can. And the same thing with the zebras, where most animals stalking that zebra aren't going to be able to make the difference between that and just tall grass, moving in the wind. It doesn't work for every species on Earth, so that's... I wonder, the animal camouflage, I guess it would work on other animals, but not on us. And page 88 to 90, Bolshaya Past Crevice. Remember that keratins often appear during boss fights. Those lithe green critters sure do love a scrap to the death. If you miss the one located here, you must finish the game, then start all over again to try and grab it. Okay, so if you finish the game... Well, yeah, because you have the Patriot when you start over again. But your keratin number, that still stays the same from the end of the last game? Take the Hornet's Nest on Snake's side with you. If you don't already have one, you can turn it into a rare delicacy during the forthcoming encounter with the Pain. You will suffer the derision of the Ocelot unit if you wear the crocodile cap or hang from the edge of the crevice. Oh, okay. You can get roasted. You're not just getting shot, you're getting roasted. The Chornaya Peshera Cave Branch. This is pages 91 to 92. If you defeat Ocelot with a stamina victory, you'll find the animal uniform here. It has the calming effect of a constant dose of pentazemin, preventing Snake's hands from shaking while he aimed his weapon. Talk to paramedic when you find a Russian glow cap, then do so again after eating it. Despite empirical proof to the contrary, she will regard its apparent effects with great skepticism. Yes, so if you eat the glow caps, I ate a Russian glow cap and it charged up my batteries, is what he tells her. And I mean, he does. I don't know why. How does that work? Although they do say the batteries on his devices are charged by his body heat or electrical energy or something like that. So I guess you could say there's a logical explanation, maybe? You can incinerate the tumbleweed that blows to and fro on Ocelot's side with a WP grenade. Ocelot will be angered if you kill the marker in the background. His fury will increase his movement speed, which makes him more dangerous. Smoke a cigar as soon as a swarm of hornets circle around Snake's head. Now switch to the first person perspective for a clearer view of your proceedings. Throw a hornet's nest onto the Pain's island. If it lands close to the hornets, it will become the Pain's hornet nest. This is your only chance to get this rare delicacy. You can jump from above to reach the island once the fight ends. If you defeat the Pain with non-lethal weapons, the bonus camouflage hornet stripe will appear on the island. The wearer will no longer be attacked by leeches or hornets, and the latter will even turn on enemies that get too close to Snake. A useful uniform to have when you next play through the game. So when you play the second time through, so it's all the same save, that blows my mind. So it's still, I don't know too many games that do that, where you've done the complete game, and then you select new game or continue from the last save, and then it's still technically, you're going through the whole plot again. I don't know too many games like that where you finish the game, and then you don't have to make a completely new game. You start again, but it's still technically the same save. Where's the time paradox on this? Where is Ben 10's granddad coming out of nowhere saying, Snake, you can't use the Patriot in the first act. What will the boss use in the third act? That kind of thing. We're up to Polnizovia South, page 97. Talk to Sigan if you want to hear a more or less plausible explanation for the existence of flying platforms in the year 1964. Fishing with explosives is hardly sporting, but it's an extremely effective technique for a hungry secret agent with a tough deadline to meet. Just throw a stun grenade into the water close to a shoal of fish, not a school shoal, then collect the packages that appear. Oh yeah, so a shoal is a loosely swimming unit group of fish, and then a school is more coordinated and synchronized, I believe. The Dark Cave. To find your way safely around the dark cave, you'll need to find a source of light. Fortunately, there is a torch nearby. Its position is marked on the map. To help you locate it in the murky darkness, you can choose from one of several possibilities. The first and most obvious is to select the cigar. This will only provide limited light, and will also damage Snake's life, making it a temporary solution at best. Using a smoke grenade will momentarily reveal the outline of the surrounding walls. The binoculars also provide a tiny amount of additional visibility, but they are not particularly helpful. The thermal goggles are virtually useless in this instance because they only highlight heat from creatures and items. Your best option is simply to be patient. As time passes, Snake's eyes will become accustomed to the gloom, so you just have to wait a few moments until you can see more clearly. If you wish, you can speed up this process by turning up the brightness on your TV. If you consider the latter trick to be little more than cheating, you can attempt to feel your way around the cave to find the right path. There are no enemies or traps here. Regularly refer to the map in the survival viewers to keep track of your location. I never had any problem with the brightness. I've heard other players say, that cave sequence, it's difficult and it's extremely dark, you can't see what you're doing. No, I don't know if it's just my TV or, I'm playing the legacy version on a modern flat screen TV. It's still through a PlayStation 3, but it was darker and then it got lighter, but yeah, it wasn't like I could see a thing. The Japanese novelization. This is a conversation with Sigint. I didn't have any other job opportunities. I was turned away from all the places that could do cutting-edge research. Snake couldn't believe it and asked again. No, with your skills you can go anywhere. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm black? It was only this month that the Civil Rights Act was enacted and black people were given the right to vote. Sigan might have had more to say about this subject than he was letting on. Snake was encouraged by this. He was talking about Sigan's dreams in the bushes of a foreign country covered in mud. A friend like that is waiting for him in America. It's very cute. Sigan continued. Racial discrimination will probably continue even in the 21st century. I want to work on connecting the world using computers. In the electronic world, there is no such prejudices as nationality or race. Yes, there was a man who had a dream for Fox. There was a man. The future depended on whether Snake could complete his mission. If he failed, not only would Sigan's dreams be lost, but the whole world would be burned down in an all-out nuclear war. It's just so cute. It's very wholesome. Snake is a very wholesome man in this. And then we have this fantastic chapter, which is the backstory of the Pain. It's him infiltrating German territory with the boss and the rest of the Cobra unit. And it's amazing. And I would like to do an Intel Files episode or sort of like an audio drama or audiobook version of that. So I'll put that to one side, but I'll read you a little preview. During his childhood, he was taught that pain could be controlled. His father was a special beekeeper in the Ottoman Empire. After the collapse of the empire, a major event in the earlier 20th century, his father fled to Austria in search of a new world. He was a scholar and had a great deal of knowledge about forests and poisons. He learned how to handle bees while hiding on the outskirts of his small village deep in the mountains. In this lonely land, the Pain learned not only what was inflicted on his body, but also the loneliness of having no friends his age and the pain of injustice. So I guess his father has a wife, his mother is not mentioned anywhere, they're all living out in the middle of nowhere, I don't know. It continues. Because he had lived that way, he was able to tame the pain of losing his father and the emptiness of being driven from his hometown. When World War II began, Austria was occupied by Nazi Germany. His father was killed and he fled. Because he had lived that way, he was able to tame the pain of losing his father and the emptiness of being driven from his hometown. When World War II began, Austria was occupied by Nazi Germany, and his family was of Jewish descent. So, when he was invited to join the Cobra unit by them, when he was not yet 30 years old, he jumped at the chance without hesitation. He had a grudge against the Nazis. He had been controlling the pain of loss by resolving to one day get revenge. "Don't push yourself," he said as he handed over the vial. The person who received it was a tall woman with grey eyes. She had a beautiful face. She was in her early 20s and wore a bandana wrapped around her blonde forehead. The central square of the old city was just around the corner. "The wound has healed. It's just a little bit of pain," she said. The narrow road where the streetlights don't reach is almost pitch black. But even if he's alone with a young woman in a place where no one can see him, there's no romance. Because she's wearing a field uniform, carrying a backpack, and fully armed. "Boss, I'll do it after all." As he said this, she stopped him, holding his hand, which had become stiff from being bitten by insects. She is also known as the Joy, and as the leader of the Cobra unit. She's a hero, a highly competent soldier, and an intelligent agent. The war in Europe had reached a stage where the trend was completely decided after the Normandy landings. To ensure victory, the Cobra unit, which belongs to the US military, now I know, has participated in many special missions. That night, they had infiltrated a small city in western Germany to eliminate a senior member of the Nazi regime. The air in the middle of the night in deep autumn was cold enough to sting the skin. They are far behind the front line where at this very moment friendly and German forces were facing each other. If they are discovered, their chances of escaping alive are extremely low. "I am the quietest. Back me up here." Her orders were unwavering. The Pain has also trained in stealth, but he is nowhere near her level. He is also the worst shooter in the Cobra unit, so he is the only one who uses a Soviet submachine gun, which helps him to stay on the level of a bullet-throwing woman. I love the Japanese translation. Sometimes I don't want to over-translate. I'll leave the little weird bits in. I like that. The Joy suffered a terrible blow this summer, but she continued to fulfill her mission. proving that the concern of those close to her was unfounded. To track, you can apply this liquid to the target. Bees with luminous paint will follow and stay there even at night. She relaxed her stern expression a little. He knew that something important had been taken from her. In an age where everyone bears pain, she is fighting to end it, not to push it onto someone else. Boss, to control pain, it's better not to push yourself when it's bad. The leader of the Cobra unit begins to move with light steps that blend into the scenery. No one notices her as she passes through the cobblestone square and heads to the church. That was the entrance to the air raid shelter. And that goes on for a couple of pages, and it's good stuff. So yes, I definitely want to do this proper justice with other voice actors and sound effects and what have you. So this is the sort of stuff I would love to do between seasons. So after Snake Eater finishes, we can have audio dramas and more intel files. So you're going to get extra content before we just jump on to Peace Walker. And on that note, over and out.